Shut up and sit down.
Hello guys, it's Andy from Bigmeks Workshop and Painting Studio, and today I'm painting a Salamander's Land Raider. So for all of those who are interested in salamanders, here we go. So as you can tell, starting off with the extra opaque Vallejo dark green. Black green. Now this could be replaced with Caliban green. I just tend to prefer the Vallejo air colours as they go through the airbrush better than the standard GW paints. Even when you thin it down correctly and everything, it just seems to work better through the airbrush. Now, as always, this can be done by hand, but it's just easier, especially with vehicles, to do it with an airbrush. And here I am doing a bit of pre-highlighting over the top of the dark green with German dark yellow, which is a Vallejo primer. This could be done with multitude of colours. Basically you want just a sort of a dark yellow just over the top of the sort of zenithal highlight, and it will just assist you getting that blended sort of colour transition. That's a second coat now of the extra opaque black green, and you can start to see you get a transition of the lighter colour coming through. Obviously over the black on the prime, what you've got is a very deep colour, and going over the yellow you get a more vibrant shade, but still not bright enough for what we were after, because as you can see it looks very Dark Angels at this point. So once we'd got a nice shade of dark green, I started adding some more colour to it. So this is Vallejo Sick Green, which is a very vibrant green, but still not the shade I want. It's still looking quite Dark Angel as far as the green is concerned. But if you are a Dark Angel player and you wanted to do Dark Angels, this would work for you quite well. So I'm now working the upper reaches with Vallejo's Scorpion Green. Now this is very similar to Moot Green by GW, and it's a very, very, very bright yellowy green. As you can see, it gets a real strong colour, and this allows that sort of more salamander sort of colour going through. And obviously the cool thing about doing things with an airbrush is you can do multiple layers of very bright colours just to build the filters up, and sort of you can bring it up and take it down, as I am doing here with the extra opaque green again. And I'm just building up and taking down the colours as I see fit, just to get really interesting transitions to make the vehicle, rather than be just a green shoebox, make the vehicle quite interesting to look at. So you've got the really groovy colour transitions, which are obviously so much easier to do with an airbrush. It can be done with a spray can as well. So I'm working on the metals at this point, and I'm using my current favourite, which is Hammered Copper by Vallejo. This can be replaced with I believe it's Brass Scorpion by GW. It's just a nice rich colour. It really stands out well against a green background. And I did that on the tailpipes as well, and also on the sort of imperial skulls. Blacking out certain areas for silver work, but I'm also blacking out areas for the secondary colour, as salamanders quite frequently use black as a off colour for their vehicles and their armour. So I did some of the the inset sections in the black, and also the vehicles weaponry were primed black again. And the ammo links and such, and the silver areas were all base coated with Vallejo's metallic black. You've heard me before about this. It is great. It's just such a good colour to work with. It gives you this sort of a look of a dark silver with a black wash over the top without having a wash. And let's face it, it's a shortcut. And if we can find shortcuts that do the job properly, then hey, we've got to use them, haven't we? So now I've got some black areas in, I've got some silver work done, and I've got the copper areas also painted up. So what I'm going to do is, as all Salamander's vehicles should have, they need to have flames on it. So I'm going back to my flame drawings from which I did on a couple of other videos, on the same sort of graffiti art technique, and I'm just drawing it on in pencil so I've got something to work with, and I can start painting it all in, and then I'll be using Maskell to protect it. As you're probably aware, I did varnish this first. It's got a gloss, then followed by a matte, just to protect the paintwork as best I can. Now, as you can see now, I've just gone around the entirety of the hand drawing with black paint, just to give it a nice deep line. And I'm masking the entire thing. Now, no plan survives first contact, and one of the cool things about vehicles, and also it's a very important lesson you need to learn when you're actually painting, something's inevitably going to go wrong, and something goes wrong on this. They need to be aware of how to deal with it. So we're not actually editing that bit out. So the cool thing with vehicles is when things go wrong, it's very easy to recover it. You don't necessarily have to make it back to the paintwork or anything. You can weather it up and such, and that's a very cool thing. So we've got a nice thick layer of Maskell over it, blocking out all the green areas what I don't want painting up. And so we get to a prime. So I'm using the Vallejo red primer, German red, over all the areas what are flamed. Now, as it looks like I'm just painting straight over the top, and which is essentially what I am doing. But obviously the Maskell will protect the paint underneath, usually. So I'll get a nice even coat of the red onto the panel. Now I'm going to do this the opposite way to what flame should look like, because for certain things it looks better that way. So I'm going darker to light rather than light to dark. So I'm putting a black line in the bottom just to really make that depth at the bottom end really strong. Adding just a few layers and blending it up with the into the red. It really adds extra depth to the paintwork, and can really make just having that extra detail in just really works for you. So now I'm going out over the top end with Vallejo's US Army yellow, which is quite a bright colour actually for a military one. And I'm just going straight over the top, up the top half of the flames, up to about the halfway point on the flame itself. Once I've done that, I start adding some burnt red into the middle and bringing the colour definition into a more red area in the centre of it. Now I do apologise for the camera work. We have attempted to assist to adjust this, so hopefully the future camera work will be done. And I just added a few more layers of red and yellow just to bring the colours all together. So here we are, we're doing the reveal. So as you can see, it's not perfectly smooth from the Maskell, but it does do a very good job of protecting it. Now here we are, I'm going to put a bit of overspray and such. And what you've got is the Maskell does really work well when it works properly. And even now, even though it didn't do a perfect job, it still kept a lot of the detail work. And you just got to be careful. You take your time with a mask skull. Sometimes it's useful using a cocktail stick or whatever, and just to get into the silicone itself. And it's just a case of just rubbing into it and peeling away the silicone. And you can see it really does take to the detail quite well in some certain areas. And as you can see, it's in other areas it's quite rough, and you can see some of the paint has gone over. And I'm not repairing it at this point, so that's going to be safe for later. So I'm going on to the last cans, and that is just good old burnt red, which you're probably fed up with me using now because I really do like it. It just has a really good base. Although on camera it's actually quite orangey, when you actually see it in person, it's actually a very, very rich red. So we're throwing a bit of non-oil over the silver work. Not that it's totally necessary. I'm also doing it on the black as well. Sorry, not the black, the copper. You don't, with the metallic black, you don't really need the non-oil, but it does help. So, edge highlighting on the green. That is a base of sick green, which was, if you think back, it was one of the top colours for the armour itself. I'm using a very, very fine brush at this point. It's just to give me a bit more control. This is a Winsor Newton 00, I believe, which we've recently acquired. And to be honest, I'm rapidly falling in love with them brushes. Adding a touch of yellow into the green, and just starting to do some more pointed highlights into the corners where the light will hit. And I'm going about halfway across where the original highlights would be. So the secondary highlight only covers part of the area what the first highlight would cover. On the black areas, it's Vallejo's black grey. Again, this you've got to keep this quite thin, the paint, even by edge highlighting standards, because it even with your highlight in black, it does show up quite a lot. So just be careful, so you can build up those edges very nicely. The next highlight is Eshin Grey, which is a GW paint. You can always tell the GW paint because of the daft names. I think it's Eshin Grey. And again, done the same way as the highlights on the green, only covering a portion of where the edge highlights were, just to bring those points up where the light would hit. Don't worry about if you make a mistake, because you can always go back over the areas with the black to thin your highlights out a little bit. And the final highlight is Mechanicus Battle Grey, which is just in the absolute corners, just to really make them points stand out. So, back to fixing up the flames. As you can see, I've gone around, got some washes on, got all the edge highlights in, and we need to start making the flames look good. So I've got a bit of old sponge from a sprue or something, just make the corners nice and rough. And I'm using Rhinox hide. It's a very thin paint what I've mixed up, and just dabbing it on sort of in random patterns, making sure I'm getting the areas where the flame effect came out a bit rough. Also in areas where the vehicle would be suffering from battle damage or wear and tear and such. So hatches, hinges, a lot on the front the front doorway, and just going around making that vehicle look a bit scruffy. It's a military vehicle, so it's going to have been in a fight. So now I'm going over it gently with a bit of Terra Earth, just to add an extra colour into those damage patches. This just adds up to the filters. It's all about adding additional colours to where you want it to be. And now I'm stippling on black metal, metallic black, using an old knackered brush, which I've chopped down to be a stippling brush. Now, the reason I use one of them instead of an actual stippling brush is quite simply that the stippling brush's bristles are too hard. You don't get any paint, very little paint off the actual brush. So I found that using a softer bristle brush as a stippler is, for me, more useful, more conducive to a decent effect. And now I'm going back around the vehicles, throwing some highlights on the weapons into the windows, etc., and the lenses of the target arrays, using Evil Suns, I believe. I decided I wanted to do a bit of OSL on the lights, just to throw something groovy in there. So I'm using Magic Blue, which is a army painter paint from the Flames of War range, and getting that into the right into the lighting sections. Once I've got the Magic Blue down, I'm using Skylight Blue as a sort of a highlight, strong point, getting them lights to really pop. I'm getting a bit of spatter in there, but I'm not concerned about that at this stage. And the cool thing about OSL, it's dead easy to do once you've got the confidence. A lot of it is confidence based. Now I mixed some white into the skylight, light sky blue, just to throw a real strong section of light right into where the lights are. Now you just be careful when you're doing the OSL, just be really canny, and you can really make some very cool effects. Anyway, that's enough of me waffling for another half an hour, so I will see you in the next one. If you want to see more of the same type of stuff, please hit like and subscribe. If you have any requests, we do try to fulfill them, so please let us know in the comment section. If you've got any queries or want more information about what we're doing, please drop us a comment or get us in touch with Facebook, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care, guys. Bye bye.